In this video, we're going to take a look at the context. Now, if you remember, during the presentations, I said that the resolver functions have 4 parameters, right? So the 4 parameters for resolver functions are parent, arguments, and then the context and info. So we had a look at parent, we had a look at arguments, and now we're going to take a look at context. So context allows us to share data in GraphQL. So what do I mean by that? We can specify an object and add it to the context of the entire GraphQL system that we are building so that everything can access what we put in the context. So how do we set up the context? Remember, in app.js, we have a variable for server where we specify the type definitions and the resolvers. And this is the place where we can also set a context. And the context needs to be an object, and we need to specify what is the data or what is the information that we want to share throughout our GraphQL app. So what is it at the moment? Well, it's this models file that we have created. And let's also share this me variable to see a hypothetical logged in user. So how do we get the me variable? We just do models.users and then 0. So let's save this, but we are not quite done because we just placed the models to the context object for the Apollo server, but we need a way to access that as well. So how can we access that? Well, let's go back to the resolver for the user. And this is where I made this comment saying that the context is accessible as a third parameter for the resolver function. So what do we need to do? We need to have a parent, and in some code examples for parameters for resolver functions that you're not using, you may see an underscore being used. I leave it up to you whether you use an underscore or whether you type in parent so that you remember what that is. Then we have the arguments, and then we have the context. And context is an object that has a models property. So let's extract that directly. And now we can do models.users. Okay, and we need to do this update everywhere. So everywhere where you see users, we need to make sure we bring in the models, and then instead of users, we say models.users. Now, what do we do for me? Well, we do parent, arguments, and then instead of extracting models, we extract me and we return me. So that's the hypothetical logged in user that we have. So for mutation, we do the same. Models, and we take models.users, and that's where we push this new user. For remove user, we again inject the models, and we do say models.users, models.users.filter. And let's see if we need to make one more change here. For going through the cars, I don't think we need to do that because we do parent.cars.map, and this only works with cars. So this should be fine. And we need to do the same for car.js. So for car.js, we need to bring in the model. So parent, arguments, models, and then do models.cars. In here, we need to bring in models from the context and say models.cars.filter. So hopefully you get the idea and you can make this update on your own as well. And I'm just going to finish doing this right here. Before we can test this, I just noticed a slight typing mistake. So in resolvers index.js, I had module.export instead of module.exports. So if you've been following what I typed, just make sure you do this update as well. And now let's go here to the playground, refresh, and see if everything works. Okay, so we seem to have the name. Let's see if we can get the car make and model. The cars is not defined. This means that we probably left cars here, so parent.cars is not valid. If we come back to the resolver under user, I think right here we have cars, which is not defined, which is correct, because we need to bring in arguments and models in here as well and say models.cars. So let's hit save and rerun, and now we have the same functionality that we had before. So in the past couple of videos, we had a look at how to refactor and restructure our GraphQL application, as well as discussed the context object.